Hi everybody, my name is Meromorphic and I am old. At 32 years, I am literally a dinosaur on this platform. I still remember a time when Napster was a thing and Uncle Cracker was cool. I remember when GeoCities still hosted free websites and the dial-up internet modem sound is forever etched into my brain. But most importantly, I remember playing the original Pokémon Blue on the OG Game Boy in 1998 when it first came out in the US. Pokémon is big today, make no mistake, but I don't think anyone who wasn't alive back then realizes quite how big it was for those 2 to 3 years back in 98 through 2000 in America. It was absolutely huge. Everybody and their dog played Pokémon, watched Pokémon, and traded Pokémon cards. You'd hear news stories about how the holographic Charizard was being sold at a card shop for some ungodly price. My friend's mother bought and sold cards on eBay, so I was able to trade for the Orange Island Japanese set, which included the Generation 2 Pokémon that weren't even named yet in English. I was the coolest kid in the 4th grade for like 3 whole days. Back then, I remember getting on the internet and going to archaic websites to find any information on Peekaboo, who was the rumored Pokémon in the next games, or how to catch Mew in the originals. I learned about emulators and ROMs just so I could download the Japanese version of Pokémon Gold, even before it was out in the US. I even made it about 2 hours in before I had absolutely no idea what was going on, so I had to give up. I went to Pokémon card tournaments at my local card shop and got my ass absolutely handed to me by an older 14-year-old that kept saying, "Booyah!" every time he defeated one of my cards. Pokémon was huge, is what I'm saying, and I was obsessed. As far as the games are concerned, I played Blue and later Silver when they were released, but then I grew out of it. It was no longer the cool thing, and I desperately wanted to be cool back then. But now, as I said, I'm old, and I don't give a shit. Booyah! I love playing Pokémon, and I've gone back to play most of the games that I missed. Sapphire, Platinum, Black, X, Shield. I love them all. Well, maybe not Shield, but the Wild Zones were a good idea, I guess. However, none of them were able to live up to the nostalgia that I had for those first 2 generations and all the intrigue that they brought to 9-year-old me. So, having said all that, you should have the context required to understand how big a deal it is for me to say Pokémon Legends Arceus, while not the best game ever made, is 100% the best Pokémon game ever made. And it isn't even close. This isn't going to be one of my super long 1-hour deep dives, or at least I hope not, I haven't timed it out yet. Instead, I just want to focus on the gameplay and the story, because that is where the game most distinguishes itself from its previous entries. Gameplay in particular is where Legends Arceus really shines. The biggest thing to note is that this world outside of Jubilife City, which is your hub, basically operates the same way as the Wild Zone in Sword and Shield, which is great. Somebody smart at Nintendo realized that was the best part of those games and basically said, let's do that, but for the whole game. So it's an open field game where there are 5 smaller open world zones, each teeming with a bunch of different Pokémon, all roaming around freely and changing based on the time of day and weather. To get around, you are given special Pokémon that you can instantly call for a ride, even switching between them while on the back of another. You get your first one after a couple hours of play. They include Wurdeer, which basically is the horse that you'd find in most open world games. Ursaluna, the replacement for the item finder. Bascu Legion, allowing you to travel over bodies of water. Sneasler, which gives you the ability to travel up any cliff face or almost any vertical wall. And finally, Braviary, which allows you to fly over everything. They are all really cool additions and add much more personality than the bike ever did. I mean, in Sword and Shield, the little flippers on the bike were kind of cool, but It does not hold a candle to riding around a giant fucking fish. Especially cool is Braviary. Finally being able to free fly over everything and drop down to catch a Pokemon you've spotted is so awesome. Give whoever had that idea a raise. Thankfully though, Braviary doesn't completely make the others obsolete, as it can't really climb in elevation past a certain point, meaning you'll need at least Sneasler to get to the high places, and oftentimes Wordeer is just a little bit quicker whenever you're just trying to traverse over some short distances. You can also fast travel between camps that you get access to by progressing the story or doing side quests. All of which means that getting somewhere won't take you ages once you've already visited the place, which is fan-fucking-tastic. At all the field camps in each region, you can do a number of things. Rest your Pokemon, switch out your party with those in the pasture, which is the Legends equivalent of the PC, or buy items from a vendor. The load times to get there and back are really short too, especially compared to some other Switch games, so heading back to a camp for a quick heal and an item drop-off takes no time at all. Your main goal in this game is to catch, battle, and train as many wild Pokemon as you can. To do this, you can either decide to throw out a Pokemon to battle and weaken the enemy, or sneak up on an unsuspecting victim and throw a Pokeball just to catch them directly. That description alone doesn't really do the system justice though, and there's a lot more to it than just that base goal, so let me delve a little deeper. Your decision depends on the Pokemon's disposition. Some immediately run, others immediately attack you, while still others are just like, really chill, man. They're just looking to have a groovy time, you dig? The first group are the ones on which stealth is most effective, and to make sure that they don't see you or to lure them closer for your Pokeball, you can throw food for the Mons to munch on. God damn, I'm like a drunk fucking Picasso with words. Anyways, when not in battle, throwing a Pokeball is done manually. It requires aiming in a short enough distance. Some Pokeballs fly further than others. Heavy balls are like throwing a fucking brick. It's not hard at all to hit a Pokemon unless it's running away, but being able to control it is nice regardless. Otherwise, you can choose to battle the Pokemon. Before you do though, you can throw items to stun the wee fella, giving a chance that it won't be able to move for a turn or two once the battle starts. One of the first things you'll notice on entering a battle is that you can move your trainer around freely. It doesn't really have a practical effect outside of, switching the camera, but it does wonders for making the battle feel dynamic and in the world, rather than its own separate instance. Get too close to an attack though, and you'll get knocked on your ass. I don't think it actually hurts in the same way that your trainer can be damaged when running around the world, but it's still pretty neat. If you've ever played a Pokemon game, then battling will be very familiar, with only a couple major changes and some minor ones, and both of the major actually disadvantage the player. The first, I don't have hard data for, but it seems like your Pokemon take greater damage than in previous generations. I've almost never had trouble keeping my Pokemon from fainting outside rare occasions in previous Pokemon games, but it happens regularly in Legends. Even with a high defense stat, at 5 to 10 levels above the opponent Pokemon, yours can at times be two-shot, even by moves that aren't super effective. If this was intentional, then I'll say bravo. I don't know if this solution was the best route they could have taken, but something like this was definitely needed, as Pokemon games have been infamous for being ridiculously easy. Even Legends isn't exactly hard per se, not on the same level as a Dark Souls, but it isn't turn your brain off easy either, which is a first outside of some battles in Platinum. Another big battle change is the ability to select a move affinity. In Legends, once a Pokemon masters a move, in other words, it uses it in battle a certain number of times, it has the added option of switching to Agility or Strength mode. Agility is a faster move at the cost of being weaker, while Strength is stronger and slower. While I was first unimpressed with this addition, it does provide some interesting possibilities. If your Pokemon is fast enough, it can get in 2 moves in a row by using Agility mode. Buffing or status condition moves are a good choice for this, since you can buff offense, then get off a quick attack, even if it isn't literally a quick attack. On the other hand, if your Pokemon is slower and uses Strength mode, Often, a wild Pokemon will double dip on you. In a situation where you have a super effective ability and you're sure that you can one-hit KO the opponent, then Strength Mode is usually a good choice. Another big change is the removal of passive abilities. Honestly, I know many players did use these to great effect, but I never really did. So I don't really have much to say on the topic. Just be aware that they are gone. Pokemon move animations in general seem to have gotten a thorough makeover though, as they look pretty great overall. Way better than they were in Shield and any other of the 3D Pokemon games. I don't think I noticed a single one that looked particularly bad. Definitely nothing like that meme of the double kick that was around for a while. And some of them absolutely look fantastic, like Power Gem, Thunder, Hyper Beam, and Giga Slam, which, damn, just look at that. Booyah! Since we're talking about how things look, I'm just going to sneak this bit in here, even though it isn't technically about gameplay. So a lot of guff has been made about Legends graphics, and I mean a lot. And that's a continuation of criticism with Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon before it. And yeah, I can see that. Game Freak is well behind the curve in the graphics department. One of my first observations to my friend after booting the game up was like, oh, so it's like Breath of the Wild's art, but lazier. So I can definitely sympathize, but polygon count and textures for Nintendo games aren't a huge issue for me. Maybe that's biased, maybe that's unfair, I don't know. But for Pokemon in particular, I'm most concerned with how the Mons look and how cool their moves look. As I've said, they nailed all that. Typhlosion in particular also looks legit, with a new purple flame necklace thing, and he is now Ghost and Fire type, which is really cool too. This doesn't really relate to the rest of this section, but I wanted to say it anyways. There are a ton of little quality of life changes in Legends as well, so I'll highlight some of my favorites. As this game is single player focused, no trading is required to evolve any Pokemon, so for the first time I can finally get my Gengar. In Legends, all non-leveling evolution is facilitated via items, which can either be found in the world or purchased from a vendor for currency gained from turning in lost satchels. Basically these bags that NPCs leave around various regions. These bags refresh after each time you get them in a region, meaning there's an infinite supply of satchels. One really cool thing is that learning new moves no longer removes the old ones. Instead, Pokemon have a move pool containing all the moves they have ever learned. You can switch them on the fly as well, as long as you aren't in the middle of a battle. This is so freaking awesome and such a minor change that has a huge effect. I can't tell you how many times in the past I wish I hadn't deleted a certain move. Now, if I wanted to, I can just have my Typhlosion relearn Tackle just to dunk on the Bidoofs. Also, no Pokemon automatically evolves anymore. Once they're able to do so, there is an option in the menu that will tell you evolution is possible, so you can choose when or if your buddy gets to be a big boy. You gain currency from learning more about Pokemon by either battling or catching them. The more you observe, the more you get. Additionally, you can craft all sorts of items in this game using components you find in the world or purchase in Jubilife. Crafting is often helpful when you're short on cash and need some extra potions or balls, though I didn't really see any unique items that could only be obtained via crafting. Still, it's a first for Pokemon games and makes it more RPG, which I think is great. Finally, this last change might be more controversial than the rest, but I enjoyed it. EVs, not the Pokemon, and IVs have been removed and replaced with a much more streamlined and transparent system. Effort levels. Throughout the game, you'll receive grit items, which allow you to raise the effort level of your Pokemon, thereby raising the associated stat and removing most of the randomness of catching Pokemon, since you can simply raise their levels as you go. Additionally, you can get more grit items by releasing caught Pokemon, which gives you incentive to participate in the main gameplay loop of catching more. This is a great addition in my opinion. As I stated, there are many other small changes I just don't have time to talk about here. Something I do want to mention is what replaces the traditional framing of the game. namely going from town to town challenging gym leaders. Legends occurs before gyms were even a thing. Hell, the concept of having a Pokémon companion seems fairly new to the Galaxy core, outside of a few individuals. Instead, your main goal is to calm the noble Pokémon, one in each region. I'll get to what these guys are exactly in the story section. Also note that there are still some trainer battles in between, some of which are actually pretty difficult since they can gang up on you 3-1. But anyways, these noble Pokemon battles are a really cool addition to the game, and while I was sad at first that gyms were gone, if this is what we get instead, I am totally happy with it. When you meet the noble Pokemon, they are enraged, and to quell their fury, you're given balms, basically an infinite supply of these little hacky sacks filled with some food that the noble Pokemon likes, and potpourri or some shit, which you use to calm the noble by chucking it right at its stupid fucking face. Definitely sounds relaxing to me. Not sure how the Pokemon enjoys getting pelted with my sack, but who am I to judge their kink? You start out without your Pokemon, forced to run around and dodge the noble's moves. Oh yeah, there's a dodge in this game. Your only attack is to throw the bombs. This can get fairly hectic, especially in the first fight when you're still new to the system, and in the last couple when the difficulty spikes. Again, this isn't groundbreaking gameplay for games in general, but for a Pokemon game, awesome. Eventually you stun the noble, and then your Pokemon get to do battle. Beating it doesn't make it faint, though instead it gives you double damage for your bombs. You usually have to do 2 rounds or so of this before you're finally victorious. I really enjoyed these battles and was pleasantly surprised that this company, which has been so resistant to new ideas, was willing to change such a fundamental part of their game. In addition to the 5 nobles, there are a ton of mini-bosses scattered around the regions, so-called alphas. These do more damage and take less damage themselves and are generally much higher level Pokemon than the ones around them. They serve 3 great purposes. 1, as a nice challenge in your wandering. 2, as something to scare the shit out of you as you're wandering way underleveled. And 3, a cool source of really abnormally large Pokemon. There's some other really cool stuff that you'll encounter in your wanders too. Sometimes you'll get a notification that a space-time distortion is forming, which is like a big purple snow globe that pops up randomly. If you go inside, a mob of higher level Pokemon will swarm you, sometimes 3 at a time. It's a great source of unique Pokemon unobtainable elsewhere, as well as items that can be sold for money or used for leveling. Or when you're leaving Jubilife, the gate guard will sometimes let you know of a mass outbreak of a certain Pokemon in a certain region. When you look at the map, you'll see an icon of said Pokemon, and when you get to the spot indicated, there will be a large group of them roaming around together. Mass outbreaks are a great source to fill out your Pokédex, but also to find some shinies, which seem much more plentiful here than in previous games. And they even have a brand new UI indication so you don't miss them. Legends Arceus isn't all perfect though. While I really did enjoy this game, there are quite a few things that I didn't. First and foremost, I really wish they would have put in an option to travel from one region to another without having to first travel to Jubilife City. Again, load times aren't bad, so it doesn't take that long, but it just seems like an unnecessary detour. Also, while it's cool that you can switch Pokemon at any base camp, I feel like it's a step back from the system in Sword and Shield, where you could do it from anywhere in your menu. I get that using that exact system would be anachronistic because it involved computers or something, but it could have had a cool solution, like getting a Skyraptor to fly over and drop or pick up Pokeballs for you, like the way my mom told me babies were made when I was 22 years old. Another example, while it's cool that Legends includes RPG-style side quests, there are way too many. Or at least they drop them on you in huge batches to the point that I just got overwhelmed and ignored most of them entirely. Very quickly, your Jubilife map becomes filled with little icons everywhere for new side quests, and they just keep on coming and coming, so it never feels like it's ending. Also, while there are some interesting ones among them, most of them are just boring fetch quests where you have to go fill out your Pokedex on a certain Pokemon and bring it back or bring them said Pokemon. It's just honestly boring, and I didn't really feel bad in skipping most of them, which is something I never really do in games. It's a shame because with a little more restraint or gating, it could have been a great feature. Trim the fat, as it were, Game Freak. Get rid of the excessive quests and make them unlock a couple at a time each time you visit Jubilife. Also, what the hell happened to double battles? They are nowhere to be found in Legends. And don't try to argue that it was some kind of innovation in the world of Pokemon to fight with two of them. Game Freak might have had to write some new code to implement them in Generation 3 IRL, but that doesn't canonically mean that it takes a Haramian level intellect trainer to realize that two Pokemon hit harder. There are times when you get teamed up on 3 or 2 to 1, and it would have been really cool to throw out an extra buddy as you do in previous entries, but no such luck. That's mainly it. Legends gameplay definitely isn't perfect, but I think the good, especially the new innovations for the series, far outweighs the bad. Alright, there will be some light, vague spoilers for the latter portions of this game here, though I will save the ending for you to experience. Overall, I enjoyed the story in Legends Arceus. Granted, it isn't groundbreaking, and it's certainly far from complex. Perhaps the nicest thing I can say is that Legends has the least cringy of the Pokemon stories I've played, which is saying something, I think. I think after 25 years of minimal progress, Pokemon games, for better or worse, have to be graded on their own scale, while at the same time realizing their relative goodness compared to all other games. Anyways, brief synopsis. The trainer, mine named Butthole, starts out the game being sucked into a wormhole, ostensibly from present-day Pokemon Planet, and you're sent back in time to the land of Hisui, which is where modern-day Sinnoh once stood. Immediately upon landing on a beach, you meet a professor who takes you in and gets you a probationary job with the Galaxy Survey team, stationed in an early iteration of Jubilife City. You're given the purpose of filling up the Pokedex. A lot of things introduced in this part of the story are taken for granted and just not explained. For example, didn't Professor Oak invent the Pokedex? So how is it here now? Where did the Galaxy team come from? Actually, this one might have an answer, as there is a Galarian variant wheezing outside the main building in Jubilife. So, Galar, maybe. The Survey Corps is studying Pokemon, which they view as strange and dangerous creatures. But wouldn't humanity have evolved next to Pokemon, and so be intimately familiar with them the same way that we are with animals in the real world? Or was humanity just plopped fully formed out of Arceus' noggin, replete with all the technology of a pre-industrial society? Is it Arceus or Arceus? Who knows? No time for existential questions. You're immediately sent out to catch a Bidoof, a Starly, and a Shinx to prove that you're capable of being on the survey team. An initiation task that apparently nobody, save you, has ever done before, but sure, that seems fair. Once done, you're officially a member of the Survey Corps, and you learn of a threat to the Hisui region. Apparently, the portal you fell through is still there, floating above Mount Coronet, and is getting bigger and more menacing. You are told that it has emitted lightning, which has caused the noble Pokemon of the region to become frenzied and go on rampages. These noble Pokemon are sort of protectors of their respective regions, and they're all special variants or evolutions of known Pokemon. They are all accompanied by a human warden, some of which hail from the Diamond Clan and others from the Pearl Clan, each of which have apparently existed in Hisui for some time preceding the Galaxy team's arrival. This is the main plot of the game. You must traverse each of the regions, make it to the Nobles Arena, and forcibly take them out of their Super Saiyan state. Once done, the Nobles each give you a plate, which is a weird gift. Thanks, I guess. I'm being coy, they serve a purpose much later, but it's still weird. The real story begins when you calm the 5th and final Noble. So if you don't want any spoilers, leave now. Last chance. It was hoped by all parties that when you completed your goal, the space-time portal would be quelled and thus stop emitting that weird lightning. Unfortunately, it seems to have done the exact opposite, and the land is overcast under a weird red, sort of pixelated sky. Now, you first started getting some rumblings of discontent when you first quelled the fifth noble, which actually hadn't hurt anybody yet, and so some of the people didn't really like it, and therefore you. Now, as you're a newcomer and stranger to the Galaxy Core, you are being blamed and cast out until you can fix the problem. Basically, all of the friends you have made thus far in the Galaxy Core, the Diamond and Pearl clans, all turn their backs on you, again until you fix the problem. I just want to highlight here that the portal preceded your arrival, but sure, blame the new guy. I'll leave the resolution of the calamity up to you because it's pretty neat. The final cutscene before the last battle is especially awesome for a Pokémon game. So that's the gist of the main story. However, this is only the first ending. There are actually two others. One is just kind of a continuation of the story after the credits roll. The second secret ending, I will spoil because, well, it kind of really isn't a spoiler. You get a chance to catch Arceus if you complete the Pokédex. I mean, it's in the name of the game. It would be weird if you didn't get the opportunity. Alright, so now that we know what happens in the story, let's talk about themes. This story is about being a black sheep, a stranger in a strange land, and how one must gain the trust of the inhabitants there to survive. This is true for both the player character with everyone in Hisui, but also for the Galaxy Core as a whole, who are also newcomers to Hisui as well. I have one pretty big problem with its implementation though. Your trainer is told multiple times by multiple parties throughout the game that you will not be accepted immediately by the groups they represent, and that it's up to you to make them accept you by doing impressive deeds. Now, my problem isn't in what the theme is. I think this could have been done well, and to a certain degree it was. However, it is in the framing that the problem arises. When an NPC tells you that it is up to you to win the trust of the xenophobic settlers, the game doesn't seem to see a problem with that. It puts the onus on the newcomer and their actions to be accepted and treated as a person, when it should be the Galaxy Core members learning to be accepting of people for its own sake, because it's the right thing to do. A person, irrespective of their origin, creed, religion, sexuality, or gender, shouldn't have to justify their right to be treated like a human. That's like Rule 1 in the Don't Be a Shit Society handbook. To be fair though, a lot of IRL societies fail Rule 1 too, so yay for realism. Now I want to stress the problem isn't that this shit idea exists in the game. Games and movies are great mediums to interrogate and reflect on these very real, very toxic aspects of humanity in a relatively safe way. It's that the game doesn't seem to see the problem with the idea in the first place. It's how it's framed. Nobody ever comes in and says, wait a minute, no, that isn't fair. You're just treating this person differently because they're an outsider. At best, they say the no fair part and then just throw up their hands like nothing to be done, just accept it. The game only sort of challenges it once with the ending. When the commander casts you out of Jubilife, the game sort of seems to realize that this is unwarranted. Some of the other NPCs sympathize with you, though they ultimately don't challenge the order outside of some indirect help. Once you fix the Red Sky issue, the commander does apologize for his rash decision, seeing the error in his ways. However, you were still forced to prove yourself yet again to gain that acceptance. If you hadn't fixed the problem that you didn't even create, you would presumably have never been allowed back in Jubilife. Problematic themes aside, though, the story held my interest to the degree that I was excited to see what happened next, and I didn't touch any other game while I was playing it. I think it's important to be able to see these types of issues and point them out, but that doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy the game, and I definitely did. If you are at all a fan of the Pokémon games and you have a Switch, I would definitely recommend you pick up Pokémon Legends Arceus without hesitation. The series has been in desperate need of revitalization from the ground up, and Nintendo delivered in spades this time. They took the franchise and gave it the Bionic Man treatment, rebuilt it better, stronger, and faster. Almost all the issues I had with Sword and Shield have been fixed, and then some. Sprinkle on top the garnish of the open world design, a more serious story, and a different structure to make a fantastic Pokemon game. It is, without a doubt, the best entry in either the mainline Pokemon series or otherwise. It is in fact the game that I have wanted to play ever since I was that 9-year-old kid trying to glitch Missing No on Cinnabar Island. I'm just glad that I finally got the chance to play it, and I'm excited for what's next. Hopefully some good DLC. I hear they're bringing a lot of new Pokemon in. Booyah! So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this latest video from me. I don't know if you could tell, but there's been quite a bit of jump in quality in the actual video because I was able to reinvest some of my Patreon money to getting a new camera and a teleprompter. So yeah, if you would also like to join my patrons in paying me money every month, you can do so by clicking on the link that you should see right about now. You can also follow me on Twitter where I give updates about videos. There are a ton of benefits, by the way, for being a patron, like getting some of the lore readings in audio-only format and yada yada yada. You get the gist. You've been on YouTube before. Anyways, I'll shut the hell up now. Go play Pokemon.